Hey guys, I made a big mistake, and I started broadcasting on the wrong link here. So, who all is here? Since I spent 10 minutes playing to no one until Howie got logged on. Hey guys, I made a big... Okay. I'll play for a minute while we're waiting for folks to join, but let me know who's here. I'm playing with Drum Groove. Oh, a cold sweat. Slow down a little bit. Too fast for me. All right, how's everyone going? I apologize. You know what? I had everything set up, and then I restarted my computer, and I figured that my software would come back up with everything in the same place, and I hit go live and was broadcasting somewhere else. So, oops. In any event, we got a few folks here. Howie, you had some comments about playing over the backing tracks and stuff on the other deal. Yeah, this was kind of, I don't know, ill-fated start here. I spent a bunch of time getting things set up today and then kind of blew it, so I apologize. I know Howie tried. Any of you other guys tried the new set of backing tracks that I put out? I'm doing a whole bunch of like the simpler jazz standard kind of things, like Blue Bossa and All Blues and Cantaloupe Island, things that you don't have to be a jazz guy to really solo over, but will kind of get you started. And those came about because I have a jazz guitar repertoire class that I teach at the high school. And we needed to do a recital, and in order to do the recital, we had to pre-record everything. So what I did was I built these backing tracks, had the kids record into Soundtrap, which is an online digital audio workstation, and then I mixed them all together, and then we replay them for all the parents and stuff on Wednesday night. I forgot what night. Maybe it was Saturday. I don't know. Time is kind of a lost deal for me. Anyway, but it turned out pretty good, and I like the tracks, and it looks like I'm going to have to stay virtual for most of my classes next semester too. So this went so easy once they got the hang of doing the process that my smaller combo is just going to do, we're going to call it an album. We're going to do 10 songs like that virtually. I'm going to build all the backing tracks, and we're going to use some of these, but it was fun. One of the hardest part is making jazz drums sound realistic using MIDI, but I was very happy with some. I had to buy some drum software, but like being able to do brushes and things like that turned out pretty good. We'll go over some of those tracks and we'll talk about playing, and you'll be able to hear them. So let me just kind of shoot a couple of these out here. Putting the chords. Yeah, I'm skirting the whole part where you get in trouble for putting too much information in there. I didn't want to put a chart on the screen for the whole thing, but at least you can see when the chord changes happen, and then also describing the form. Because the idea with these backing tracks is that they're literally an arrangement, so that you can play the melody of the. It's not just a jam over. You could just jam over it if you wanted to. But what I'm really shooting for are these, I'm calling them project length backing tracks, where you have to play them, or you should play the melody at the beginning. You've got X amount of choruses to solo, and then you've got both the outro melody and then maybe an ending. And if you wanted to play along with it, you could actually play something that sounds like you're playing with a band that has an arrangement. So that's kind of what I was shooting for with these. And I think I'm going to do a whole bunch of. They were fun to do, but also I think they're going to be kind of useful. I'm going to do long form, like you just want to jam for 20 or 30 minutes over the chord progression. I'll have those versions of these all out too. But okay, so you like the backing tracks. Steve has been slammed. Bad blues licks sounded less bad. We'll talk about how to make your rock guitar blues licks work over those things. How he says, the other thing I did was start playing caged positions as triads. Yeah, the writing everything out is much more helpful. I can't stress enough how helpful or useful it is to take something out of the arena that you would normally work on it and get your brain to take the information in a different way. So doing it on paper is always kind of a big thing for me. I can't recommend that enough. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some of the tracks, I guess. Let's do this the easy way. All right, so I'm gonna okay, it's all set up kind of differently. I should be able to play these without having a problem. So this is the all blues one. Let's fix that. All right, and you'll see where I talk about the form. Can you guys hear everything? So there's a vamp at the beginning. Now on this one, you hear the piano, the little trill. That's just like the original recording. That actually stops where the solo's supposed to start. But you see the instructions about in terms of the arrangement. You can solo over this if you want to, but this way if you wanted to do something that sounded like the song, as a replacement for not being able to play with other people, you can do that. So let's talk about how you can play over this, right? Because essentially, this tune is a blues. It's all blues, right? And the chord progression is mostly a standard blues. You get the 1 chord for 4 bars, the 4 chord for 2, the 1 chord for 2. All right, just like a regular any old blues. But then we go 5, then we go up a half step, flat 6 to 5. And that's even something you find like in a B.B. King song, like "The Thrill Is Gone." Is that kind of flat 6 kind of movement, and then back to 1. So it's pretty simple for a jazz tune. The album this comes off of, Kind of Blue, was kind of almost a reaction to how hard everybody was making their lives with bebop and how complicated music was. And they didn't even rehearse this album before they recorded it. Literally everyone showed up. Miles handed them a few scraps of paper, and they had to make heads or tails of it. And some of them were able to relate to it better than others. One thing, if you listen to Miles play over this, he's not playing blues licks. You know, he's playing some pretty neat stuff. And I'm not going to get too much. I actually don't have his solo transcribed, but he tends to play some stuff that's really neat, really atmospheric, and not. Yeah. as guitar players, we tend to think, hey, it's a blues chord progression, so I should be able to just crank through all my blues licks. And you don't necessarily have to do that. Let me just check something. I am still live, right? Okay. All right. So if I wanted to, at the core of it, the simplest thing is to play a blues scale. And I can do that. Now, for a lot of blues players, one of the things that we can do, we want to get away from over this, you know, playing with the bends and stuff, right? But a bend is always just a movement from one note to the next. Right? So instead of doing the bend, you know, we're just going to play that note as a melody. All right. The other thing is that I'll focus on the root of the chords as they go by. Like when it gets to the C to the 4 chord, I'll play the C and the D. And this is a really easy way to start hitting the changes without really knowing all of their arpeggios. So just using the simple box pattern. Make sure you leave some space. So Steve brings up, what about sliding in instead of a bend? That's exactly a lot of the stuff that I was doing. Right. As guitar players, we generally tend to think about bends in a way that's not very musical. It's just a physical action. Right. We know it as a lick. Right. What we really want to do is be aware of the fact that a bend is just facilitating another way of articulating a melody. Right. If you do that, you'll actually start playing your bends more in time as well as in tune. But in this context, if you want to, just as you said that, it came up on my screen, I slid into the D. Right? And that's a totally valid articulation. That has nothing to do with guitar technique. You know, you would slide into notes no matter what instrument that you play. Right? So that's one approach. You can get away with playing minor pentatonic. You can play just the blues scale over that if you wanted to. The blues scale gives you a little bit more slinkiness. So all that stuff. Alright. Blues scale, minor pentatonic. You guys know that I love playing chord tone stuff, right? So I've got a lesson on chord tone soloing for blues guitar. Let me bring that. I'll post the link for this guy here. This is a great way to kind of get into this because it works for swing, jump blues, all kinds of stuff like that. So I'll post this in there. Did it come up? Oh, it looks like it did. All right. That gives you some things to think about in terms of what I'm going to be talking about here in a second. All right. So the next bit is, you know, hey, let's hit those chord changes a little bit harder. So I'm just going to play off the arpeggios with the embellishments in that lesson. That's more hitting the chord tones. Right. Using the chromatic stuff we've talked about. Alright. So right there, that really weird lick was me really just playing. That's just a D flat 7 arpeggio. And then there's the E flat. And then I moved into a spot which is basically like the D major pentatonic. Right. So because the chord progression goes up and it goes back down, usually we want to go up and down with the rise and the fall of the chords. But what actually works nice sometimes is going contrary to that. So in that case, right, I moved up against all of that, which kind of gave a little bit more tension to be released at the end. All right, so let me pause for a second, because I basically ran through a whole bunch of stuff that we've covered in other lessons, and I'm hoping that you guys know that stuff. And if you don't, let me know, and then I'll post the links to those lessons for you guys to check out. Not really doing much on rhythm guitar today, but that's okay. Seems like this is kind of really what you guys are into. So, used to listening to Kinda Blue and hearing blues licks over it. Yeah, because that's not really what they played, you know. And there's no guitar player on it too, so that takes it even farther out. But it really is a blues, right? And honestly, I can play B.B. King and Albert King stuff over it, and it would work, you know. Do weird stuff like that. Alright. So, you know, for me, blues can be a lot of stuff. Right? And it really depends on who I'm playing with and how they're approaching the music. Because, you know, blues is, you know, there's a form to it. There's a history and a vocabulary to it. There's a lot of people that play it a lot of different ways, you know, and I hate trying to define blues or having these conversations about what blues actually is, because it's impossible. You know, it really is. So you've got this form. It's just, you know, in terms of, hey Tom, you know, you've got the blues chord progression, but there's a lot of blues chord progressions. You know, 16 bar, 13 bar, 11.5 bar, you know, 8 bar. You know, and you got a lot of modern blues artists that don't play anything that sound like Little Walter. So it's kind of a weird thing. You know, you find, like here in Southern California, that we have what we call blues Nazis, and they're typically baby boomers who think that everything should sound like whatever their favorite record is, whether it's Stevie Ray Vaughan or Little Walter or whatever. Anything else is crap. It's like Mike Myers. Anything that's not Scottish is crap, you know. But to me, there's a lot of blues, and all blues. This is a great blues. This is a great example. Okay, let's talk a little bit about rhythm. So here's the deal: is I'm kind of workshopping what my next series of lessons is going to be, because there's how everybody teaches it, how I usually teach it, and how I'd like to try and communicate it. So let's do this. We're going to start off just kind of talking about time. All right. So much of what we do as guitar players is learned by rote and ill-defined. And I'm trying to find ways of communicating this stuff where we can define this in a way that whether or not you read music or have a standard music education, you can understand, right? Because the reality is that most people that watch my lessons aren't going to music school right now. Right. So at the core of it, every conversation about music should be about time. I talked a little bit about it before, all right? But ultimately, we've got, this passage of horizontal time, right? And within that horizontal time, we've got smaller bits of time. We'll just do this. These are not notes, by the way. This is just me. All right. Or even smaller bits of time. All right. Or, 3 of these guys per one of those beats. All right. But at the core of it, you should be able to, this is a horrible, horrible thing I'm doing here. You should be able to feel this, no matter what it is that you're doing. That should be in your body. And all those other little bits, you have to feel those within that. And you have to feel time kind of in 2 dimensions, right? So we've got the vertical and the horizontal, like we're playing Battleship, right? So this dimension, that's how time flows, and, we count our beats, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., whatever the meter is. But in this vertical sense, right, if we don't have this vertical time alignment, then your time still doesn't feel very good. And if you're playing with other people, or you're trying to play by yourself and you're singing, it's difficult to build. It's like building a house on sand. All right, so say, I've got, here's a drummer. Oops, actually. This in black, right? So the drummer, 1, and 2, and 3, and... So here's 1 measure of time, right? And this drummer is playing, this is the hi-hat, snare drum, bass drum, right? So all of this right here, that's just all drum set. All right, so when you're hearing this rock beat, right, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and kick, snare, kick, snare. All right. Actually, let's see if I can get to my drums. I don't know if you guys can see me back here or not. All right. But at the core of it, you've got this thing going on. You see me? All right. Kick, snare, kick, snare. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. All right. So we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's a subdivision of that time. Oops. This is what happens when you don't play your drums, but they get pushed around. 1 and 2 and 3. So we're feeling that basic division of 1, 2, 3, 4. And then at the same time, this other stuff, the kick drum has to happen at the same time as the hi-hat, snare drum has to happen the same time as the hi-hat also when they fall together. Let me ask you guys a question real quick. Could you hear anything I said or did back there? All right. Essentially, I was just playing the beat that's written here on the page. All right, now maybe you've got a bass guitar player. All right, and the bass guitar player is, whoops, shoot. Bass guitar player is playing a part that goes 1, 2, and all right. Okay. So here's the bass player. We'll color this guy. We'll give him red. All right, and then maybe my guitar part is we're just making stuff up now. So I'm playing 16th notes and then 8th and 2/16, 16th notes, 8th, 2/16. All right. In the vertical though, yeah, no Lars. In the vertical, all right, and you know what? Well, actually, what I should do is oops. Okay, so if I just take the beats, all of these guys have to be in time in the whole band. All of these guys have to be in time in the whole band. All of these guys, right? And what's holding it together is the fact that every musician should have spent some time in their life playing with the metronome or with some really good records and building this memory of how it feels to play time consistently in the horizontal. 1, 2, 3, 4. But you're also feeling it in your body. Physically, you have to feel it in your body. All right? Bands that don't sound good, all of this stuff on the page here, it's just none of this stuff lines up here. You know, you've got things early and slow, and that's why bands sound like a mess. You know, you can go to a local band night, all right, and new bands, you know, they'll play for months before they get out and play that first show, and it'll be sloppy and kind of hard, you know, and they'll have practiced a lot, right? But at the core of it, maybe they just don't all have their rhythmic skills put together on a personal level as well as on the ensemble level, all right? So it sounds kind of rough. And then you get professional players, like I'll go play a pickup gig with some friends, and it'll sound pretty tight. And what sounds tight are the rhythms, what were drum grooves, and how I listen and play my stuff with the drums. The part that's not tight, because we're not rehearsed, are intros and endings, right? So what happens is people go, oh man, you guys must play together all the time. And you're like, well, no, we don't. All right, no, and they get kind of weirded out by this idea. And the reality is that what makes a band tight, you know, regular rehearsals make a band tight in terms of form and arrangement, that other stuff. But personal practice time on the things that we're discussing here and what we're going to explore with my upcoming videos, that stuff happens at home with the metronome, playing along with recordings, defining what the rhythms are that you're playing specifically, and making sure that what you play lines up in the vertical. Okay? Any questions about that at this point? Because I need coffee. All right. got my worksheet up. I actually made these. I don't use them enough. All right. So the first thing is let's take some metronome here. Where's my metronome? We're going to put this guy, well, you guys can hear it, I guess. I hope you can hear that. Now, if I'm strumming in time with that metronome, I get my students to play we start with eighth notes. Actually, let me see if I got an eighth note page on here. I forgot to. Oops. Nope. That's not what we need. All right, we'll come back to this. All right, so if I'm playing just eighth notes, all right, there's two ways of playing eighth notes, and one of them is just all down strums. Oops. What happened? Six. Sorry, there we go. All right. So with this metronome, I can go 1 and 2. Right. Now that feel, if I'm doing straight down strums on a rhythm part like that, it's got a kind of a driving, insistent feel. It can be kind of tighter. You know, usually I'll. All right. If you go on, all down picks generally tend to be more driving. If I'm playing more of an open thing, let's get a cleaner sound here. If I alternate strum, it's always going to sound more open. Right, but the key here is that we keep the down beats happening on the. We'll divide the beat in half. Let's do it this way. All right, so where the beat clicks, the first half of each beat is going to be. We're going to call that the down beat. The and, I call it the upbeat. The real upbeat is beat 4, like we're talking about jazz, but we're going to be strumming up on that, right? So if I'm playing just straight eighth notes, 1 and. This is the first part to building that rhythmic clock, is getting used to this idea that no matter what rhythm you're playing, even if there's tied rhythms, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, you're still keeping that motion going because your right hand, you know, your body, whether it's you're feeling it like you're moving like this or your foot's tapping, that's your beat. That's the quarter note in this case, right? But we're also trying to make sure we physically manifest whatever the basic subdivision of the time is that we're playing. Right, in this case with the eighth notes, we're keeping that going. If I was playing, you know, all right, no matter what the rhythm is, my hand is going to keep that time going, and that helps me not only play in time with the drums or with the other instruments better. But it also it builds this into like a consistent muscle memory or sense memory where I know how it feels to play that rhythm in time all the time. And because I'm doing it consistently, what is also happening is that it's easier for me to hear something and know exactly what to play. Or like when I hear like a drum groove of some kind, I know what I can play right away. I can feel it. All right, so that's the eighth note thing. The 16th note thing, basically we're just doubling it up. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. So if I'm going, or let's say 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. All right, so I've got a rhythm here, the first part, so I can remember what I wrote. 1 E and a 2 and tied to the 3 E and I'm going 4 E and just okay. So with this guy, you're seeing that we're playing here, 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 here. That tie says that we don't actually hit the strings there. So we're not hitting the strings till there. And then 4, E, and All right. But you have all of these places where you're not actually hitting the strings, but you still have to feel this time happening. All right. And that becomes the most important part of this, is that you have to be accountable for every slice of time. 1 E N, a 2 E N, a 3 E N. Right? Once you get that built in, you're feeling the quarter note. 2. This is my foot tapping. 1 E N, a 2 E. Right? When I'm playing that strum, and a 2 E N, a 3 E N. And a 2 E N, a 3 E N. Or if I'm playing something more complicated, like let's see. Now I'm getting a lot of scratches in there, right? Partially so you can kind of hear all the subdivisions. But even if I'm not, if I'm floating the hands, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E, I still feel that all the way through those rhythms. To the point I'm sitting having a conversation with you and I'm playing this rhythm. Right? So I'm playing the time two-dimensionally. Right? I'm feeling the horizontal passage of time, and in the vertical, I'm also feeling that within my own body. So if I was going to play with the drum groove, actually, let's go back to Mr. Drum Genius here. I'll show you guys what I'm doing here. This is like one of my favorite apps, is this Drum Genius. So if I'm playing pop rock country, okay, so we'll do a couple things here. All right, so here's a train beat. Oops, I should have downloaded all these things. This is what happens when you're not planning ahead. Okay. Oops, did I do the right one? Watch. Oh, yeah. 2 E and 3 E and. Right? Any of those kinds of rhythm parts, you have to feel that subdivision. He's going. Right? It's a 1 E and a 2 E and. Right? So it's a 2 feel. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, and. And you hear the accent on the ands. Right? I'm not actually strumming alternating on that, but a lot of times, let's see. Right? I have to be aware of all that stuff going on, even though I'm not keeping that going. That's one thing. That was not what I was looking for originally. Days of Thunder sound. There's some weird songs in here. I need to find something with eighth notes. Moby Dick. Eye of the Tiger. Let's play some Hell's Bells. Let's 3 and. You hear the hi-hat? Right, that's where I'm finding where my strum is. Alright, there's nothing here that says... You could do that, those are 16th notes, where I'm playing 4 subdivisions per beat. But this is really where the music is telling me to play. It's almost like I'm playing the hi-hat with the right hand. Okay. That's kind of the 8th note thing. If I had to... I can do it all downstrokes, but I'll tell you something. That open hi-hat tells me that this should be more of an open strum. If I'm playing this is because the hi-hat is tighter. Right? Because what the drummer is doing kind of defines how you're going to play. So that was Hell's Bells. Oh, it's not a good example of what I'm looking for here. I'll have to program these things here. Most of these are pretty open feels. Billie Jean. Okay, so here's Billie Jean. Let's see. I don't know if that's Billie Jean or Bon Jovi, but right, if I was playing over this and I had to play something straight, I'd be playing more like this. Maybe even like with the bridge pickup with the volume halfway down. A little overdrive. And that would fit rhythmically better than, because now dynamically I'm just in the wrong ballpark. I'm still playing the right time. But, you know, obviously this song, in order to keep the keyboard part going, I'm still feeling all those 16th notes, even if I have to sing right. Okay, I'm gonna pause just for a second. I'm sitting here yammering. Okay, we got a couple of. Yeah, the clapping is really important. We'll have some of that in some of these videos. You always have to define what the time is somewhere. Gotta get your band implements. Good way of looking at it. Foot tapping, elementary school band. At times it feels odd, not foot. That's a good thing. Hell's Bells 16th. Nice. Okay. Where are we at? So let me. I'm gonna pause it for a second. Let you guys ask questions. I'm a little meandering today. Like I said, I'm kind of working out a couple of ideas for what these next lessons are going to be. But these are the things that I think about when I'm playing rhythm guitar. You know, it's about the time, dynamic, the size of the part that I'm playing. So you bring up an interesting thing. Piano players don't feel time the way the rest of us do because of these reasons. Finding a piano, you know, for a lot of piano players, time is a lot more fluid. But when you find somebody, like I play with my friend Gary that plays on my albums, you know, he can play funky keyboard parts, right? Because he feels the time the same way that we're feeling it. Like, you know, good piano players will still be able to internalize the time, but you don't have this intermediate step that we're talking about where you're actually having to tap your foot, and you know, it's just kind of a different path to getting there. But you still have to, at the core, you have to feel whatever that beat is. Freebird. Yeah. Let's see. If I leave here tomorrow, will you still be here? Oops. Will you still be here today? Ska. Calypso. All right. So where are we at with you guys? What do you guys have questions? I'm not sure how much I should push on from here. But at the core of it, you know, this app is great because it forces you to think about like what's going on here. We'll pick one at random. Like I'm sure I've heard Kodachrome. I can't think of what the drum part is. So I'm going to actually listen to this and figure out what to play. To me, you know, I get my rhythm part from the drums. That's probably the best way to look at it. Is what's going on with the kick and the snare gives me what's happening syncopation wise, right? And what's happening with the hi-hat and or ride cymbal gives me other information in terms of how I'm going to play. So I don't know what this Days of Thunder. I didn't even see the movie, so I don't know like what this song is. You Gotta Love Someone. So this one, you know. You know, I'm thinking more like that. I'm not even thinking strumming, right? Because if I am, even those chords are too big for this, right? So maybe. Right? I would think more like that, right? That drum groove is just telling me that. Alan White on Imagine. But literally, I could sit here and do this and just come up with guitar parts, and you're going to kind of see like why I'm picking the parts that I'm playing. So on Imagine, you know, we all know this song. Hi-hat is tight, but it's slow and kind of open feeling. Let's see. Because it's so slow and it's eighth notes, I'm actually going to think 16th notes there. In the kick drum, kick, snare, kick, kick. It's pretty open too, so I can actually get away with a lot around that. It's not going to impact me by being too specific. Hal Blaine on Mr. Tambourine Man. Some help. Ride cymbal. It's open. If I leave here tomorrow, I don't know why it's all Tom's fault. Will you still remember me? All right, literally, you could do this on and on and on. Let's find something that's totally different. Well, that wasn't Kodachrome, or was it? Here's Smoke on the Water. Let's see if it's in time or not. If it's not in time, it's not. It's inauthentic, or it's very authentic. Right. So that part. That's the. Actually, if I remember right on the recording, at that point, it goes into the 16th note part, right? But in that case, like really, that groove doesn't. I don't necessarily hear. I think I'm going to be strumming something. feels like 16th notes. I can't tell you why. And then you get something like this, right? And there's no strumming over this. Or maybe there is. Let's see. So we're used to hear. And being able to go in between rhythm and lead parts, that has to be in the same time zone too. All right, so Moby Dick. For some reason, I was thinking that was going to be much busier and impossible to strum over, but Bonham's just laying it down. All right, Born Under a Bad Sign. Right, so here's something that I wouldn't really think about strumming over because it's got kind of a funky deal to it. Right, with the bass line. Without the bass line, let's see what happens. I might think more about just the backbeats. 1, 2, 3, 1. Even with this kind of rhythm, though. I'm still feeling all the same time that I'm talking about. It all has to happen in both dimensions, and you have to be responsible for both the beat and the subdivision of the beat, right? And you take your cues from whatever that drum groove is. It's weird to like hear these. Let's see, here's War Pigs, right? So let's see what War Pigs does. Can we strum over War Pigs without playing the riff? Right, so I'm still feeling it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, but right, because he puts the kick and the snare in weird places, I have to kind of think about what am I playing, and I don't have to play exactly what he's playing. But I do have to make sure that either I'm playing on it or I'm playing out of the way of it, right? So that those parts pop out, right? And that makes it kind of groovy. All right, any questions? Yes, no? Yeah, this app is pretty neat because part of what's neat about it is the fact it's just got a bunch of stuff in there that someone decided people wanted to practice over, which is it's kind of weird to me, but it's forcing me to play over grooves that I wouldn't think about ordinarily. You know, there's Fool in the Rain here, right? So what music do we make out of this, right? What do the drums tell us we need to play? So for me, if I'm going to strum, cleaner sound. I like that. I might make a song out of that later. Right. That's not anything like what that song sounds like, but that's what, it's open because you got the ride cymbal. Right. And you got this kind of busy pattern, and you've got this. You got 3 within there. All right. Within that, though, he's playing that ride cymbal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. There's that going on too. So you got to kind of figure out which part of that you're going to play, I guess. Questions? Is Howie still here? I kind of launched into the rhythm stuff because he was. All right. So I think for me, just as a recap, you have to be responsible for your own time. That's the first thing, which means that you need to feel where a beat is. You need to recognize where the beat is within a piece of music. You should be able to listen to it and know where the primary beat is. You should be able to snap or tap your foot or whatever to that. Then you should be able to figure out what the subdivision is, right? And even like if I'm just trying to figure out something new, I'll tap my foot, which you can't see my foot tapping. And I'll try and just, here's, is it this subdivision? Is this a good subdivision? What is going on there? And then once I have a handle on whatever the framework of the time is, then I'm listening to the rest of the music, right? Does the kick and snare pattern say, hey, I need to play a syncopated rhythm part, or does it need to be straight? Is the right hand of the drummer, is he playing something tight where it should be all downstrokes and tightly played here? Or even like more of a bubble part? Is he playing kind of loud splashy hi-hats? Is he playing on the ride cymbal or riding on a crash cymbal? Those are other sounds. If that's more sustainy, then your guitar part has to be more sustainy. All right. Is he playing on the toms, and what does that say about what you should be doing over that? Right. These are all the things that, like, if you can decipher the music out of the drum parts, you'll be a pretty good rhythm guitar player, right? But you have to have your own time first, right? Time starts here and then gets utilized here, right? And whether or not you're playing with a group, or even like I've done these solo things on YouTube where it's like, I do this Muddy Waters tune sometimes, and I like this groove. It's a boogaloo groove, but I'm playing 2 guitar parts. I'm playing the box pattern, single notes, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. So I combine the 2, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And I can sing over this. Tell you about my baby. Speak of her with pride. She goes all the way just to make me satisfied now. She's my baby. All right. And I'm still feeling the time in that break where I'm not playing. Super important. Feel the time all the time, even when you're not making music or noise on the instrument. It never was so sweet. So I can do things like that little fill. All right. Anybody should be able to sing. Whether or not it's in tune or not, it's a whole other story. But rhythmically, you should be able to do this as a guitar player if you've got your rhythm guitar skills solid enough to be a good member of a rhythm section. Believe it or not, the part that people think is the hardest to me shouldn't be if you're actually learning how to play the instrument the way I think is correctly. That's just me, though. Okay, you guys got any questions? I'm probably going to wrap it up. Oh, okay, real quick. So Steve Thompson, the program I'm using is, here I'll show you. This is called Drum Genius. Is there a thing that has any of the information? Info, nope. Oops. Doesn't have the info. It's called Drum Genius, though. And I use it a lot for practicing or playing with my students. And it's got all of the stuff in here, and then you download. I don't remember like if you have to pay. You probably have to pay something. It's been a long time since I had it, but then I can download any of these grooves on here, and there's a ton of styles, different kinds of, mostly a lot of jazz actually. But you've got all of these other songs that are some Ghana high life here. Learn how to play that stuff, right? So it's a cool program, yeah. You still have to keep strumming your hand on the blank parts of the sound. Trying to, you know, if you're doing that and you're able to float the hand where we're not hearing it, there's nothing wrong with that. I do that most of the time, on some level. I would rather do that than stop the hand, because if you're keeping the hand going, then you're keeping the subdivision going, all right, and everything's nice and relaxed and everything stays in time. But if you stop the hand or you stop your foot during a break and then come back in, and you're not like feeling the time all the way through the break, there's almost this like where you have to get started back up again and figure out where you're at, even a small amount. So to me, keeping the hand moving, that's not a bad thing. So. Alrighty guys, I'm going to split. I believe it's dinner time. We'll see you guys. We'll be here on Saturday. Not sure what I'm doing on Saturday. And I still got to figure out like, they also, thank you guys. I kind of, today was a little bit of stream of consciousness because I'm still really trying to figure out how I want to explain this stuff in a video format. So you guys were helpful. So, okay. Thanks a lot. I'll see you soon.